You're a racist. Remember that. Let's take a look at Ralph Bunche. Ralph Bunche is a member of the CFR, the NAACP Board of Directors, which you would expect, the American Civil Liberties Union, the League of Industrial Democracy. He is also identified as a member of 40 communist fronts cited by the United States government as subversive. He is also identified as a member of the Communist Party under discipline by the two top Negroes ever to defect from the Communist Party, the highest Negro ever in the Communist Party, Manning Johnson, the only Negro ever to become a member of the Politburo of the Communist Party USA, who testified for 10 years. He worked with Ralph Bunche, 1928 to 1938, in the Communist Party under party discipline. And by a man who has been a guest in my home quite a few times, a man named Leonard Patterson, who was the roommate of Gus Hall for their years training in Russia together. The party can never deny these two men. This is the reason why they're key. Leonard Patterson, who also testified under oath that he worked 10 years. And I believe Leonard Patterson or Ralph Bunche anyway, any day, anywhere. 10 years in the party with Manning Johnson and Ralph Bunche under party discipline. In fact, you see, Leonard Patterson got into the Communist Party as he was the shoeshine boy at the Communist Party headquarters in New York. And he got recruited right in from the inside and was put on the staff. Anyway, this guy worked in the docks breaking heads open and getting martyrs. As he said, my job was martyr making. We smashed heads and got martyrs if we didn't have them. If the enemy didn't give us a martyr, you kill one of your own. That's how you get a martyr. Then you get funerals. Then you get marches. He led a march on Washington in 1935. Commended by the Communist Party for his organization of a march on Washington in 1935. Well, I didn't get back to this little thing about Mr. Harb. Remember over in the Middle East? Was this a communist revolution? There wasn't one communist on the 8 men who went into that town. There wasn't one communist in that march down that police station. There wasn't one communist body laying in the streets. Was it a communist revolution? Oh, yes. But the communists aren't out there getting their head beat in, aren't getting shot. The num-nums do. I asked Mr. Harb, how come you got out of the business, knowing that he wasn't really what you call a highly moral man? And he said, I'll tell you what happened. These Frenchmen over there, they'd watch who stepped in the doorway and hang you from a lamppost. And he said, now you had the choice of either facing the machine gun or a rope. He went in the grocery business. Well, we'll skip some of these people. I just want to take Ralph Bunche here for one case in the NAACP board. This is who's who with the hardcore left anyway. But Ralph Bunche, not only identified member of the Communist Party, by the two top Negroes who know, and members of all these Communist Front, he's on the board of directors of SANE, but he's also on the board of directors of the Rockefeller Foundation. And he has something to do as the Undersecretary General of the United Nations, the Fifth Communist International. We find these foundations financing. Ford Foundation finances SANE, CCAP, SLIC, CORE, NAACP, and the Urban League, and the ACLU. Now, we find Rockefeller's doing all of that, but except the CCAP. They don't get in on that one. We find the Carnegies and these people financing the schools turning out the left with the heavy endowments, and when they get a Ford grant, you can be sure it's going left if it wasn't before. I went to a little church school 20 years ago, a little church college, and that college was fairly conservative. They had never taken any government money. Then they took a $4 million Ford grant. The next year they ran 16 speakers across the platforms in compulsory chapel meetings for the entire student body. Every one an identified member of the Communist Party, without a single exception. What is the purpose? We will find here, of course, the Alfred P. Sloan, President and Chairman of the Board of General Motors for many, many years. These organizations, the very wealthy, constantly fight to finance the revolutionary organizations and the colleges turning out the hardcore left. We find the same people pushing for liberal, socialist legislators and for socialist legislation everywhere we turn. Why? Their enemy is competition, not monopoly. They need the num-nums in the street as the smokescreen for their seizure of control. Are these people being controlled by these people, or are these people being controlled by those people? Now, you see, as a boy, my brother told me something when I got my first job. He said, look, you want to know who the boss is? You look at the guy's name on the bottom of the check. That's the boss. And the guy's name up there, that's the employee. If your name is up here, do what the other guy at the bottom says. And when you want to give orders, get your name on the bottom of the check. Now, I don't see Martin Luther King, Walter Luther giving financing Ford and Rockefeller. I see it the other way around. So I say, who's the boss and who's the employee? And my little brain whirs and whirs and whirs, and I come up that something is phony. Phony. These people are being taken. But notice, if these people knew they were being taken, the show would be over, wouldn't it? If these people who are today, you watch these hippies, I'll give you an example. A section leader in Detroit went out to answer you on one of these calls where you got a reference. He goes up to his house, and the guy opens the door, a real hippie. I mean, way out. And he says, they laugh, we did it for a joke. They sent their name in the Birch Society, And this guy, he's kind of these guys, he sits there with his little film strip projector. He says, you guys, you wasted my whole evening. You're going to watch my film. He says, you serious? A whole house full of these guys, bouncing around, Are you serious, man? Yeah, I'm serious. You're going to watch my film. I came over here, I wasted my evening, you're going to look at my film, like it or not. Come on in. So he goes in there and he flaps it on the wall, he starts clicking away, throws the record on, At the end of the film, he said, got another? Sure, he's got a whole bag full, and he throws another one. Click, click. 3 a.m, still playing these film strips. He said, well, what do you think? He said, man, we knew we'd been conned by somebody, we just haven't figured out who. They knew they'd been taken. He says, how much guts you got? He says, I got quite a bit. And he says, will you come back next week? I'll fill this place. I don't say what I'm filling it with, but I'll have it full of people. He says, I'm here. And he's been running a program over there every week. And these guys are shaving up and cleaning up. Some of them got to stay dirty in order to recruit more troops. But you see, if we are so afraid of going out and standing up for what we believe, we deserve to lose, and we're going to lose. You haven't got a chance. But all they need from you is you to believe you're going to lose, and you've defeated yourself. Victory is won by people who believe they're going to win, and you're never defeated until the moment you think you're defeated. All they want you to do is you listen to the smear and say, oh, I better not, it's unpopular. You will and cower before the enemy smear campaign, and you're working for them, whether you like it or not. I don't care your moral position, you've already defeated yourself. You've worked your way in that concentration camp, and you'll deserve it when you get there. Don't think any other way. Personally, your own choice of action, that's your own. But the key to the whole solution to the problem is this, that all you have to do to anyone, and the liberal is the best of all, first, define these terms in your own words, and second, take them around this circle. One he sees, and the liberal knows this because he's been hit with all this stuff, the anti-monopoly coalition a bit, that he is actually working for the very people he thinks he's overthrowing. He's your friend. Why? The Birch Society and the socialist and the liberal agree on the problem. That it is the establishment that is manipulating a phony government and a phony war and a phony conscription. There is no disagreement with the real liberal. The average conservative doesn't know that. He thinks that the liberal thinks of a different problem than he does. The thing is, you've got two different definitions for terms. That's why you can't get together, and that's been planned. So you can't communicate. Once you establish these terms, he buys because he is with you. For he is a victim like you are. He has no other place to go. You can't become an insider. Unless you're an insider, you are a victim. There's only two kinds. And if you're an insider, forget it, man. Don't come to this meeting. If you're not an insider, it's too late to get in. These guys here think, some of these people think they're insiders. They're not insiders. Stokey Carmichael's boom boom. Gus Hall's nobody. They get wiped out right away. These people think they're really up someplace. They're in a little front group. They are totally being taken. And you show this to even the hardest core liberal, and he gets shook. He can't take it. That's why they want you to shut up. Because if you keep telling people this, you know what's happening across this country? There is a conservative wave moving across this nation, and they're terrified. And the main thing of that organization, that wave, over half of all of the work being done in the whole world to fight this conspiracy and I would even go more than that, 90% of all of it, is being caused by one little organization that's only 10 years old. All done by volunteers who work in their own community, open their own bookstores, pass out pamphlets, walk around showing film strip, talking to people at work, just working with the people they know, because it's the only way you can do it. You're not going to do it by, I can never speak to enough people. Mr. Welch can never speak to enough people. The professionals can't speak to enough people. It's got to be by people who continue to communicate to the people they meet. In an organization that is nationwide that's capable of putting together the tools and equipment to do it. For an example, who brought you here this evening, today? Me? No. An organization put together 10 years ago that is capable of putting together a meeting, that is capable of putting out millions of books. They're having 400 bookstores, and they don't like it. With the largest wholesale book distribution company in the world today, American Opinion. With the finest magazine, bar none, in the entire world, American Opinion. They have tried every way to silence this. They have tried every way. The main way is to try to discourage the members of the society. If they can get the members of the society to go into the hole, they've got a clear track. Because you see, what does it take to destroy conspiracy? Exposure. If I'm defrauding you, I can only do it if you don't know it. If you know I'm defrauding you, I can't do it. Fraud only works when the victim doesn't know about the fraud. If the victim knows about fraud, and that's what this is, these people here are being defrauded. If they know about the fraud, they lose their troops. The show's over. These people here think that their government is protecting them from communism. If they know about the fraud, the show's over. Most of the 7 million employees in the government think that they're uplifting the downtrodden. If they knew who they were really working for, the show's over. These people here are so small in number, they're terrified that a sufficient number of these people will know about the fraud before they can solidify their total takeover. The one thing that they fear is information reaching sufficient number of victims. And there's only one way to get that information, not through the radio, press, and television that they control, through the FCC and everything else. You can't do that. Through the book distribution company and through the unions controlled by Walter Reuther, you're not going to do that. Mr. Welch says if you're going to reach people, you've got to reach them directly by yourself. You've got to take it to them, and that means that thousands of people have got to take it to them personally because they have a vested interest in the results of this battle. And if it isn't done by the individual citizen who's willing to organize, and this is the trouble, conservatives are individualists, and they don't like to join together. But when evil men conspire, good men must associate. If we're unwilling to band together and build an organization capable of putting together the material and putting out the speakers and the films and everything else necessary to reach a sufficient number of people in time, we're going to lose and we're going to deserve it. All one thing that the communists have never met, and I mean this in a broad sense, entire conspiracy, and that is organized opposition. Sure, they met the isolated guy who understood and spoke up on the street corner, the guy who had his little meetings in his little study group. There's thousands of these. They have never met a national, large-scale opposition of citizens individually, on their own, volunteers, working to expose the connection of these two arms. And if these two arms are tied together, that's all that's needed for the total collapse of the whole system. For they can't operate. They lose their control over government and over the people. They have already got sufficient control over government, but they haven't got yet the power to solidify it. They need wage and price controls, gun legislation, a few other things they got to get through, and particularly a federal police. That's why the breakdown of the local police is promoted. And so the local police can't protect you, so you demand a federal police. You know what the name of the federal police in Germany was? The Gestapo. The local police of the Volkspolizei broke down because it was broken down. So you have a federal police. Why? The federal police is to arrest opposition. Not criminals, opposition to the state. It's the only reason for a federal police. A local police can take care of the criminal bit, but they won't arrest opposition to the state. You need a federal police for that. They've got some things they got to pull off you. They haven't yet ruined enough of your kids. They're working at it. And you remember the first responsibility of you as a parent is to educate your own children, not leave it to the state. You do and you deserve what you get. With that, let me wrap up this talk by saying that the only organization, secular organization that I know, really working in this field, that has the equipment and the tools to do the job is the John Birch Society. If there was something else, I'll tell you to join that too. There isn't anything else. It is the only real effective body the communists have ever met. And they're terrified. That's why they spend more time smearing one organization out of 4,000. Because they know it is the only organization that can defeat them. As the John Birch Society grows enough, and enough people put in the work that needs to be done, by being self-disciplined, because we have no discipline over our members, we have no way to force anybody to do anything. All we can do is send them a bulletin and ask and make requests and pleas and cries, but we can't do anything more than that. Everything in which a member participates in, he has to do because he personally believes in it. But we never speak in our members' names. We let them speak for themselves. One member doesn't speak for another. But unless we have an organization sufficiently dedicated, a sufficient size to put together the nuts and bolts to reach your neighbors and your friends, you can't win. And with it, that's all you need. All other things happen automatically. Once sufficient understanding. Look at this thing here with Yorty. Boy, they pulled all the stops, didn't they? They pulled out everybody, hauled them in from all across the country. But where are there more Birchers than any other county in the United States? They know who put them down the tube and don't think they don't. They know who put them down the tube with the police review boards in New York. And they know who put them down the tube with Abe Fortas. And they don't like it. A couple more shots of that, and you're going to find the cadre who think the payoff is in the Communist Party starting to get a little shaky. They're going to wonder, is it inevitable? Is it the wave of the future? And when that doubt starts running through their ranks, they start running like rats leaving a sinking ship. For they are pragmatists. They are not morally committed. I'm not talking about the numb in the street. I'm talking about the conspirator. He's not morally committed to a position. He's a pragmatist. And as a pragmatist, he wants to be on the winning side. The day they don't look like they're winning, they're already defeated. You don't have to do anything more. They fold up and collapse of their own organization and their own methodology. Destroys them. The key is only one thing. Sufficient exposure so that when they pull out all stops, they keep getting the door slammed in their face. They can't take that. They are used to always winning. They have never met organized opposition. That's why the John Birch Society is such a hated organization. And I'll tell you, when those boys love me, I'm getting out. And as long as they hate me, I'm right here. And with that, somebody asked me to close this talk with little personal backgrounds and made that a request. I personally was a student, and I got into this movement. I was teaching the whole left line because that's what I was taught. Not that I was a conspirator. I was repeating back what I was taught and showing how brilliant I was. I'm doing a pretty good job of it. When I think of the things I used to teach, it really embarrasses me. If you haven't been wrong, you haven't tried anything yet. We've all had a pull in and realized that we've pulled some pretty bad ones in the past. One day, I had a real left-wing office partner. He used to, for jokes, send away to all sorts of operations. And he sent away to this organization I never heard of. And he said, "You want to read a joke book?" And he threw over the filing cabinets that separated our desk the blue book. And it landed on my desk. I said, "What's this?" He said, "Oh, it's a little kook operation." He said, "It's the funniest thing I ever read." And I said, "Yeah." About 9 o'clock, I was going to go home in the evening. I'll read a couple pages and go home. I always got in late. He was an early bird. And he said, "Boy, you got in early this morning." I said, "I haven't gone home." He says, "You've been here all night?" I said, "I started reading that book and I couldn't put it down." And he said, "You didn't believe that?" I said, "You know, I've had 11 years of college and this is the first common sense I've read." And he said, "Well, you don't know anything about the guy." And I said, "Well, I sent him $48. He says, "What?" "Yeah, the books were $2 in, $1 now." And I said, "I sent for 12 more of those books and I gave him a year's dues." You don't even, you joined the organization you never even heard about it? I said, "Look at the guy, he's right, I'm with him." I started around the campus with a bunch of these blue books under my arm. Well, you see, doctoral students You see, you never want to have another doctoral student carrying a book you don't know what it is, because he may be reading something you haven't read, and then he's got an in on you, you see, on the exam. So whenever there's a game you play, whenever you see one come across campus, you stop and look under his arms, he looks under yours, you know. This is kind of a part of the ritual. Well, I'd take the blue book in front of him when I'm walking up, and I'd carefully pull it out and put it under the other arm. I'd let him look through, and he said, "What you got on the other arm?" "Oh, nothing, you know." "What is it?" "No, that's just personal. What is it, Crane? Tell me. I slip it out and I say, stick it under the arm. "Well, let me read it. Let me read it." No, because, doctoral students are used to reading a dozen books at night. You got to polish them off. You got to be pretty fast at this business. And he says, the guy says, let me read it. "No, I promise at that time in the morning. I got to have it to him at 9 o'clock. "I'll have it finished by 9 o'clock. I have it back in your desk." "You're sure to have it at my desk? I got to have it at 9 o'clock. Yeah. Okay, I get another one under the arm. Start. Before I knew it, there were 4 chapters on the faculty. And I got home to Detroit. My brother says, "Hey, come over here to the back of Geitz's restaurant. We have a meeting tonight." I said, "What kind of meeting?" He says, "Oh, just a little meeting." He says, "Come on over. You'll enjoy this thing." I said, "Back of Geitz's restaurant?" He says, "I see you in the back room. We're going to have this little meeting." I says, "Oh, tell me what the meeting is." So we get over to that meeting. We sit there, and here comes on this film. And this guy's talking a little bit. I listen to him a while. I says, "The guy sounds just like the guy in the book." So after the first reel of the 4 reels, I got up and I said, "Look, is there anybody in here who isn't going to join this outfit?" Nobody said anything. I said, "Pass on whatever you got here. Come on, let's get it going." Everybody signed up. My brother says, "How come you're not signing?" I said, "I'm already a member." He says, "So am I." You have a lot of fun. All they do is this. If something is right, go with it. He has been right so far, and as long as he's right, I'm going to follow. Thank you very much.